It was just another normal evening when Lyria appeared in his life. She didn't come knocking politely or send a warning. She simply materialized in the middle of his small living room, shimmering slightly like light through water. Her skin had a faint silver glow and her eyes were enormous, reflecting colors he didn't recognize. He blinked, unsure if he was dreaming or had finally lost his mind. "I am Lyria," she said, her voice soft, almost musical, yet perfectly understandable. "I have come to learn human love." He laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of joke. Okay. Human love? You mean like dating?" Her head tilted, her silver hair shifting like liquid mercury. "I wish to study it, to feel it, to understand it fully." Even though he knew she was serious, he couldn't help but feel a mix of fear and excitement. His roommate, a literal alien from another world, wanted to learn love. And not in a textbook way. She wanted to experience it. For the first few days, life became strange in ways he couldn't explain. Lyria observed him constantly. She noticed the way he smiled when he saw his dog wag its tail. She watched the subtle changes in his voice when he spoke to his friends. She asked countless questions, sometimes bluntly, sometimes curiously, like a child who had never known the world but wanted to memorize it all. "Why do you feel happy when your friend smiles at you?" she asked one night as they sat on the couch, a dim lamp casting soft shadows around the room. "Because it matters to me," he replied, shrugging. "Because I care about them." Her eyes glimmered with something he couldn't name. "Interesting. I will try this. I will try human love." Even though her words were simple, there was a weight to them, a promise almost. He began to notice how different she was from anyone he had ever met. She wasn't human, yet she studied humans with a patience and attention that was almost overwhelming. Every expression, every gesture, every laugh or frown became a lesson for her. And for him, it became something else entirely, something he wasn't ready to admit even to himself. There was a strange warmth in her presence. She asked questions that made him think deeply, questions he had never asked himself. "What is longing?" she once asked, her voice low, almost trembling. "What is desire?" He paused. No alien had ever asked him such personal things before. Even his closest friends hadn't asked. There was an honesty in her curiosity, a rawness that made him nervous and oddly exhilarated. By the end of the first week, Lyria had started to blur the lines between observer and participant. She would mimic human gestures, trying to understand. When he laughed, she laughed in her soft, melodic way. When he frowned, she mirrored it. But her eyes betrayed curiosity rather than judgment. One evening, he found himself staring at her across the small kitchen, realizing something he hadn't anticipated. His heart wasn't just beating fast because of surprise or fear. It was because he felt drawn to her. There was an intensity in her presence that humans could not produce. She was learning about love, and somehow he was learning about himself. "I will not leave until I understand," she said softly, breaking the silence. "And I wish to understand with you." For the first time, he realized that this was not just an experiment. This was the start of something unpredictable, something powerful, and something he could not ignore. The arrival of an alien who wanted to learn human love was not just strange. It was life-changing. And deep down, he felt a flicker of hope, excitement, and fear all at once. What would happen next? He had no idea. But one thing was certain. Nothing in his life would ever be the same again. After the first week, the apartment felt different. Every corner, every chair, even the faint hum of the refrigerator seemed alive with Lyria's presence. She wasn't just observing anymore. She wanted to participate, to experience the very things that made humans human. "I want to understand feelings," she said one evening, her silver eyes glowing softly in the lamplight. "Teach me human love. Show me how it works." He hesitated, unsure how to respond. How do you teach love? How do you explain something that even humans struggled to understand fully? But seeing her earnest expression, the way she leaned forward, eager yet cautious, made him realize this was important to her. And somehow, he wanted to help, so he began. He taught her about small gestures first, the things humans often took for granted. Holding hands, for example. "It's not just about touch," he explained. "It's about connection, about showing you care without words." Lyria's first attempt was awkward. Her long fingers brushed his hand, then lingered too long, sending a jolt through him. He froze, staring at her, but she only tilted her head, her curiosity shining brighter than ever. Do humans feel this? Electricity? She asked. He nodded, unable to hide his reaction. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it means a lot more than words. Next came eye contact, smiles, and small compliments. Each one was a lesson, and Lyria absorbed them like a sponge. But there was something different about her attempts. Her gestures were perfect yet intense, sharper than any human's. A simple smile from her carried warmth that lingered in his chest. Her laugh wasn't just sound, it was a vibration that seemed to touch the soul. As the days passed, their lessons grew bolder. Lyria wanted to try emotions fully. She wanted to feel them, not just mimic them. One night she asked him to sit closer on the couch. "Show me." "Happiness," she said softly, her eyes wide. He laughed nervously. "You just have to let yourself feel it," he said, unsure if she could even understand the depth of what he was saying. She tried, and it was mesmerizing. Her entire being glowed with a warmth that mirrored his own feelings. He realized something he hadn't admitted before. He was falling for her. Not just curious, not just protective, but falling in a way that scared him. Then came the first real test. Lyria, eager to understand intimacy, wanted to experience a human romantic gesture. "Teach me a kiss," she said, her voice barely a whisper, trembling with anticipation. He froze. A kiss? Was this part of the lesson? Was it safe? But looking into her eyes, he saw honesty, innocence, and pure curiosity. He realized she wasn't asking for it like humans did, she was asking to learn. So he guided her gently, slowly. Her lips touched his, at first awkwardly, then with a softness that made his heart ache. It wasn't just a gesture. It was understanding, curiosity, and trust all rolled into one. Pulling back slightly, she whispered, "Did I do it correctly?" "Yes, but it's more than correct," he admitted, voice low. "It feels real." Her silver glow pulsed brighter, almost like she was smiling through her entire being. And in that moment, he understood something important. Lyria wasn't just learning human love, she was experiencing it. And in experiencing it, she was changing him too. The apartment, once a simple living space, now felt alive. Each shared meal, every laugh, every brush of hands carried electricity. He could feel the tension growing between them, a dangerous, thrilling energy that neither of them fully understood yet. But one thing was clear, nothing about this experiment would remain simple for much longer. Lyria's desire to understand love had moved from curiosity to action, and he could no longer pretend he was just her teacher. Deep inside, he was part of her lesson, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to be anything else. As the days passed, their lessons grew more intense. Lyria wasn't just observing human love anymore, she was diving into it fully. Every smile, every touch, every shared secret carried weight, and with each passing moment, the line between experiment and reality blurred. One night, as they sat on the couch watching the rain streak the window, Lyria reached for his hand. Her long, glowing fingers brushed against his skin and lingered. He felt a jolt that traveled through his chest, making his heart pound faster than it should. "I do not understand," she said softly, her eyes reflecting the storm outside. "Why do you react like this?" I don't know," he admitted, voice shaking. "I just do." Her eyes glimmered with curiosity and confusion. "I thought human love was simple, logical, but your response is unpredictable." He swallowed hard. She wasn't wrong. Love wasn't logical. It was chaotic, messy, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. And now, facing her, he realized he had crossed an invisible line. He wasn't just teaching her anymore, he was part of her experiment. Then it happened. The first true accident. Lyria leaned closer than usual, her silver glow bathing the small apartment in soft light. Her lips brushed his in a tentative, experimental kiss. It was a kiss meant to learn, to study, to understand, but it did something else entirely. His body reacted instantly. His heart raced. His mind went blank. And when she pulled back, eyes wide with innocent curiosity, he realized he was completely unprepared for the intensity of her touch. "I did it. Correctly?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Yes," he breathed. "More than correctly. It feels real." Her glow pulsed brighter than before. She didn't fully understand the effect she had on him, and he wasn't sure if he could explain it. Her experiment had crossed a boundary he didn't know existed, one that neither of them could take back. The next few days were awkward, electric with unspoken tension. Every accidental brush of hands, every shared laugh, every glance carried weight. He found himself thinking about her constantly. How her eyes caught the light, how her voice made him shiver, how her presence made his world feel brighter and more fragile all at once. Lyria, for her part, seemed unaware of the storm she had unleashed. She continued her lessons with earnest curiosity, each attempt at human intimacy more daring. She wanted to understand emotions, but she was learning something deeper, something raw and uncontrollable. One evening, she asked him to sit closer on the couch again. "Show me the feeling of love," she said softly, almost like a command, almost like a plea. He froze. Could he show her? Could he explain the chaos in words? Could he admit how he truly felt? His chest tightened and he realized he had no choice. He leaned in, letting her feel what he could not say. They kissed again, longer this time, unguarded, trembling, full of confusion and longing. It was no longer an experiment. It was real, messy, human, and utterly overwhelming. When they pulled apart, silence filled the apartment, thick with emotions neither of them could fully name. Lyria's silver glow had softened into something warmer, gentler. Her eyes searched his as if asking for confirmation. "Yes," he whispered finally. "Yes, it's real." In that moment, both of them understood something important. This experiment had gone beyond science. It had become life-changing, heartbreaking, and breathtakingly beautiful. But with that understanding came fear. Fear of what this meant for their future, fear of what love could do, and fear of crossing lines that could never be uncrossed. The experiment had gone wrong, but in its failure, it had revealed something more powerful than either of them had expected. Love could not be controlled, measured, or contained. And now neither of them would ever be the same again. After that night, nothing between them felt ordinary. Every shared glance, every accidental touch carried a weight neither of them could ignore. The apartment, once quiet and normal, now felt alive with emotions, unspoken and electric. Lyria had stopped treating their time together like an experiment. She wanted to understand love, yes, but she also wanted him. She watched him laugh, noticed the subtle changes in his expressions, the way his shoulders relaxed when he was happy, the way his eyes softened when he was thoughtful. Each observation was no longer scientific. It was personal. One evening, as rain fell softly against the window, he found himself talking to her about things he had never told anyone. His childhood fears, the moments of failure that still haunted him, the dreams he held close but rarely shared. And Lyria listened, truly listened with a patience and care that made him feel safe, understood and strangely light. "I feel connected," Lyria said softly, her silver glow warm and gentle. "It is more than observation. It is emotion, stronger than I anticipated." He looked at her, heart pounding. "That's love," he said quietly. Her head tilted, eyes wide, shimmering like molten silver in the lamplight. "Love is chaos. It is confusing. It is frightening. Yet, I want it. I want to understand it with you." Hearing her say that out loud made something inside him shift. The fear he had been carrying, the fear of confusion, of boundaries, of falling too far, suddenly felt manageable. Because here she was, an alien from another world, telling him that she chose him. For the first time, he realized the depth of what they were sharing. The laughter, the quiet moments, the accidental touches, all of it wasn't just an experiment anymore. It was real. It was messy. And it was more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. That night they sat close on the couch, rain drumming softly against the windows, and Lyria reached out to hold his hand. The warmth of her touch made him shiver, and he realized he didn't want to let go. I think I am falling," he admitted, voice trembling. "Falling for you." Her eyes glimmered with a mix of curiosity and emotion. I'm feeling something similar. It is unexpected, but it is real. And I do not want it to end." He swallowed hard, his chest tight with emotion. "Neither do I." For the first time, they talked openly, not as teacher and student, not as alien and human, but as two beings exploring something deeper than either had planned. Confessions flowed between them like a river breaking its banks, uncontainable and beautiful. "I never expected this," he whispered. "I thought I was just helping you, teaching you about humans. But somehow you've taught me more than I could ever explain." Lyria smiled faintly, her glow soft and steady. "And you have taught me that love is not just observation. It is choice. It is trust. It is being vulnerable. And I choose this. I choose you. The words hung in the air, tender and powerful, filling the room with a warmth neither of them had expected. In that moment, they realized that love was not about perfection, or logic, or understanding every rule. It was about connection, about letting someone in completely without fear. He leaned in, resting his forehead against hers. The rain outside sounded like a quiet applause, and for the first time he felt truly seen. Lyria's glow, her presence, her sincerity. It all made him feel alive in a way he had never known. And in the quiet, intimate space of their small apartment, two souls, one human, one alien, finally admitted the truth. Love was no longer an experiment. It was real, and it was theirs. For a while, life felt like a dream. Lyria and he spent their days exploring the small joys of human love. Walking in the park, cooking together, laughing at silly jokes, and sharing quiet moments in their dimly lit apartment. Every day, it seemed, brought them closer. But as often happens with love, comfort can quickly turn into tension when hearts are vulnerable. One evening, Lyria did something unexpected. She pulled away, not entirely, but enough to confuse him. She had been distant all day, her silver glow dimmer than usual, her eyes avoiding his gaze. "Lyria," he asked cautiously. "What's wrong?" She paused, fingers fiddling with the edge of her sleeve. I am testing you," she said finally. "To see if your attachment is genuine, to see if human love is resilient." He froze. His stomach twisted. Testing him? After everything? The thought made his heart ache. "You're pretending? You want to hurt me to see if I care?" Her head tilted as if he had misunderstood. "Not hurt, understand. Love is unpredictable. I must verify your responses. It is part of my learning." He felt a rush of emotion he couldn't contain, fear, frustration, and a deep, aching love. "Lyria, you don't need to test this. This isn't an experiment anymore. It's real. It's me, and I don't want to lose you to a test." For the first time, he saw uncertainty flicker in her eyes. Lyria had always been confident in her observations, in her experiments, in her logic. But human emotions were messy, and now she faced a truth she hadn't anticipated. She had fallen for him. I thought I understood," she admitted softly, her glow flickering like a fragile flame. "I can simulate feelings, I can analyze gestures, I can replicate interactions. But this, your love, it is different, it is overwhelming." He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "Yes, it is overwhelming. But that's what makes it human. That's what makes it real. I care for you, Lyria. I care in a way you can't measure or test, and you matter to me more than anything." Her eyes widened, silver light mixing with soft warmth. She realized then that she had misjudged human love. It wasn't something to study or simulate. It was something to experience, to trust, to give fully even when it scared her. I do not want to lose this," she whispered, her voice trembling. I feel it. I feel it fully. And I cannot pretend anymore." He pulled her into an embrace, feeling the tension melt as her body relaxed against his. "Then don't pretend. Don't test me. Let this be real. Let us be real. Together." She rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, letting herself be human in a way she had never allowed before. In that moment, all the fear and confusion faded. The experiment, the lessons, the tests, they didn't matter anymore. What mattered was connection, trust, vulnerability. For the first time, Lyria understood what humans often struggle to explain. Love wasn't something you could perfect or measure. It was chaos, fear, joy, pain, and hope all tangled together. And somehow it was worth everything. And for the first time, he realized something equally profound. He didn't just want to teach her about love, he wanted to live it with her. Completely. Unreservedly. They held each other close, the storm outside echoing the turmoil they had both felt. The air was thick with emotion, heavy yet electric. And in that quiet, vulnerable space, they finally allowed themselves to drop all pretense, all fear, all logic, and simply be together. It was messy, it was unpredictable, but it was real, and for Lyria and him that was everything. After that stormy night, something changed between them. The tension, the uncertainty, the testing, it all melted into something gentler, warmer, and stronger. Lyria no longer approached their time together as an experiment. She approached it as a human would, with curiosity, honesty, and an open heart. Every morning he woke to her glowing softly in the sunlight that spilled through the window. She would smile, tilt her head, and say things like, "Good morning. I wish to share today with you." And he would realize that she no longer needed lessons or experiments. She simply wanted to experience life and love with him. They began exploring human intimacy in its simplest forms, sharing meals, cooking together, and walking through quiet streets late at night. Lyria laughed freely, no longer mimicking, but genuinely enjoying each moment. He found himself drawn into her world, mesmerized by the way she noticed the small details, how she mirrored his emotions yet added something uniquely her own. "I have learned something," Lyria said one evening as they sat under a starry sky on the balcony. "Human love is not about control. It is not about rules. It is choice. It is risk. It is vulnerability. And I choose this. I choose you." His chest tightened, a wave of emotion rushing through him. "I choose you too, Lyria, every day. And not because I have to, but because I want to. Because you matter to me more than I can explain." She reached for his hand, her touch glowing softly, warmth spreading through him like sunlight. "It is strange," she murmured. "I came to learn love as a concept, to understand it as a human emotion, but now I feel it, deeply, and I do not wish to stop feeling it." He pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. "You don't have to, not ever. We can face it together. The chaos, the joy, the fear, it's all part of it. And somehow, it makes life more beautiful." Days turned into weeks, and their bond grew deeper. Lyria began to express herself in ways humans did, not just with words, but with gestures, laughter, and quiet moments of connection. She would trace his hand with hers, smile when he glanced at her, and lean against him when the world felt too heavy. And he realized something extraordinary. Human love had transformed her, just as her presence had transformed him. One rainy evening, they sat together on the couch, listening to the drops tap softly against the window. He looked at her, glowing in the dim light, and realized how much he had come to rely on her presence. He realized that she wasn't just his roommate or his friend. She was the center of his world, the anchor of his heart. "I never imagined," he whispered, "that someone from another world could teach me so much about being human. About love, about trust, about myself." Lyria smiled, a warm, radiant smile that made her glow softly. "And I never imagined that love could feel like this. That learning it could be this alive, this terrifying, this beautiful. I understand now. Love is not about knowing everything. It is about feeling everything. And I feel everything for you." He leaned in and kissed her, softly, slowly, feeling the warmth of her body and the pulse of her glow. It was no longer an experiment. It was no longer a lesson. It was real, messy, and utterly perfect. As they pulled back, he whispered, "Then let's keep learning, together. Not as human and alien, not as teacher and student, but as us." She nodded, resting her head on his shoulder. "Yes, together." In that moment, he realized something profound. Humans had something no other species could replicate. The ability to love fully, even when it hurt, even when it was messy, even when it was impossible to measure. And somehow, in Lyria, he had found a being who not only understood that but embraced it wholeheartedly. Love, he realized, was the ultimate lesson. And together they had chosen to live it without fear. Months had passed since the stormy night of tests and confessions. The apartment, once a place of lessons and experiments, now felt alive with love. Lyria no longer observed him as a subject, nor did he see her as a mysterious alien. They were something far more intimate, partners in life, hearts intertwined in ways neither could have predicted. One quiet evening, they sat together on the balcony, the city lights flickering below them like stars fallen to earth. Lyria's silver glow was softer now, warmer. As if her body had learned the rhythm of human emotion, she leaned against him, her long fingers brushing his, and sighed contentedly. "I have learned what I came for," she said softly, her voice melodic, tinged with emotion. "But more importantly, I have learned that love is not a subject to study. It is not a formula or a lesson. It is living. It is choosing. It is being vulnerable, and I choose you." He felt his chest tighten. Her words, simple as they were, carried more weight than anything he had ever heard. He took her hand in his, holding it as if he might never let go. And I choose you too, Lyria, every day. Not because it's easy, but because it feels right. Because you make my life brighter, fuller, alive. Her eyes shimmered with silver light, mingled with an emotion he could only describe as pure, raw joy. I came here to learn human love. But instead I have found it, and it is, beyond what I imagined. He smiled, heart pounding, feeling tears threaten to spill. Humans may be messy, chaotic, and full of contradictions. But that's what makes us strong. That's what makes love magic. And somehow you understand it better than anyone I've ever known. Lyria tilted her head, letting her long hair brush against his cheek. I understand it because of you. Because love is more than a concept. It is choice. It is connection, and you are my choice. In that moment, everything else fell away. The stress of learning, the fear of boundaries, the tension of their first accidental kiss. There was only this, two beings from different worlds, connected not by experiments, not by curiosity, but by something deeper, something human, something real. He pulled her close, their foreheads touching, hearts beating in sync. We don't need to understand everything. We don't need rules or tests, we just need each other. She smiled softly, her glow mingling with the warm night air. Then let us live it. Every moment, every day, together, and so they did. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and each moment they shared deepened their bond. Laughter, tears, quiet conversations, and long silences. They embraced it all. Lyria learned to navigate human emotion, not through study or observation, but through experience. Through living it with him, he in turn learned from her how to see love not as something fragile to protect, but as something powerful to share. Her presence reminded him that humanity's greatest strength wasn't intellect, or skill, or even survival. It was the ability to love fully, even when it scared them, even when it was messy. One night, under a sky painted with stars, he whispered into her glowing hair, "You came to learn human love, but you've shown me something just as extraordinary. That love is worth every risk, every fear, every chaotic feeling, and I will choose you forever." Her eyes sparkled with emotion, silver light mingling with something almost like tears. "And I will choose you, always." As they held each other, the universe felt both vast and intimate, filled with infinite possibility. Two beings from different worlds had found connection, trust, and love. And in that moment, it didn't matter that one was human and one was alien. What mattered was the courage to choose each other fully, completely and without hesitation. The stars above shone quietly, as if acknowledging the impossible, beautiful truth, that even across galaxies, love was a force that transcended logic, species, and expectation. And for the first time in both their lives, they knew something simple, something profound, something eternal. Love was not an experiment. Love was life. And together they were unstoppable,